Hi, Garth. How you doing today?
G'day, David. Nice to catch up again.
I'm glad the screen's not shaking.
Yeah, we just had an earth tremor come through. It lasted for about 15 seconds, and I was telling my daughter to get out of bed and get outside now in case the house falls down. So
Oh
it's
boy.
quite dramatic, but nice to catch up though
Yeah, I
after
mean we
all of
missed
that.
last week. Unfortunately, I had a few things on, but that's it. But look for our audience who don't know Garth. Garth is the CEO of Brown and Brown Conveyancers. He's also a coach to law firms that have property sections and also conveyancers all around the world. Garth has got a number of books he's written, and Garth accomplished and has a lot of insights he's sharing with us. He's also a regular contributor to LPI, so we're very grateful for that, Garth. So, what are we going to talk about today?
Land contamination, it's something that's becoming more and more prevalent to undertakers' due diligence on sales and purchases and leases.
Mm-hmm.
And you're finding that some jurisdictions around Australia are requiring more disclosure to be enclosed in contracts when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to land contamination because these costs can get out of hand and doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be the owner to be responsible for it or the polluter.
Mm-hmm.
It can be whoever's in control of the land at that time. So
Interesting.
in some jurisdictions. And the laws do change across the different states and territories, and I'm sure around the world as well when it comes to disclosure and due diligence and knowing how to handle these matters.
So, what tips have you got for lawyers, real estate lawyers, and for conveyancers that are actually looking at this?
There are a number of bodies that are responsible for land contamination, generally in a particular state or territory or wherever you're located around the world. There's usually a government body that's responsible for it.
Mm-hmm.
And that can generally requires the actual owner of the land or whoever's in control of the land to notify the different government bodies that there is some sort of contamination.
Yep.
Um, but it's sort of a bit airy fairy, and it's just sort of like some can treat this as willful avoidance,
Mm-hmm.
not to do that. And so when it comes to selling a property, that creates a bit of fuzziness about, is there contamination or not, and whether it should be disclosed or not, because you're putting the onto the person their responsibility to report it. And let's face it, if you're an owner of land, would you report it?
That's a tough one, isn't it? I
It
mean, it's a real
is.
tough one because I mean, the other question is, say, for example, there was a rubbish dump that was there 100 years ago. I mean, dare I say it? But now it's sort of been, or it was a factory, and now who's to sort of say if that land's contaminated or not now?
Yeah. So, and I've really wanted to encourage lawyers and conveyancers to use tools outside of making government inquiries on land. And that's one known as a lot search contamination report.
Okay.
And that goes in to look at the history of the land. Well, particularly, sorry, not so much, but the tracking of who's actually used that land and what type of business has gone on, mainly through phone numbers from phone books.
Oh, great.
So you have an idea of that particular lot, what sort of business was conducted on there, would that likely to have contamination or not? So I think that's a really good way to go about due diligence for conveyancers and lawyers acting on behalf of purchasers, particularly, and even people who are going to sign leases as well on lots of land, whether it be industrial or commercial as well.
So that raised a really interesting question, Garth, for me. If you hold different parcels of land, you haven't done your due diligence initially when you bought the land, you want to understand the saleability of the land, you're not ready to sell it yet, and things. Is there a place for law firms and conveyancers to offer like a audit type service on the sort of land they've got?
Yes, I think there is, and using those external tools like that, what I mentioned was one very good company was Lot Search, using those tools that do like an audit basically of
Yep.
what's gone on there over a period of time, and that also checks the government registers
Yep.
as well.
Yep.
Because some councils are also responsible for, well, they are responsible more for localised contamination, like in one
Yep.
lot. But if it's a larger lot, generally a state body would get involved with that. And I'm speaking in general terms here. It does differ across the country and around the world on those
But
topics.
so should the consumers, such as myself, of legal services be actually asking their lawyers and conveyancers to actually offer these services? I mean, do you think that law firms and conveyancers should take a leading position on this?
Definitely, because it's something that's been missed for a long, long time. And it's not a case of consumers of legal conveyancing services trying to commoditize and try and find the cheapest legal service they can get. And I always remember Tom Panos, a very good real estate trainer with agents, always said that if a person is willing to do it for the cheapest price, what are they leaving out of the service? What are they opening you up
Mm.
to?
Mm.
And I really wanted to encourage all lawyers and conveyancers not to do that, but to really differentiate yourself by going that extra effort of looking into these issues, because if you don't, they could come back to bite you later on with a PI claim. And
Well, that's right.
I mean, we've had situations in some parts of Sydney, some of these older industrial areas, being used as making, I think one was making chains.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
and that wasn't properly investigated as to whether there was land contamination. So there's a number of buyers that have brought into that particular area. It was a large industrial site used prior. And some of the remediation work wasn't carried out correctly, and
Hmm.
some not at all. We've had some aspects down in Melbourne where we've had houses built on an old garbage dump, and over
Wow.
time, these houses, there's all sorts of pollutants have come out from the ground, affecting people's health.
Wow.
And if you're buying into those areas, you're finding out, well, who's going to buy into them? So I think it's very important to make that part of your due diligence, is to carry out a land contamination report outside of the contract, whatever that's disclosing. And I've always found that the best way to manage risks on a file, don't always rely on the contract.
Yeah.
Go outside the contract, use these excellent tools that are out there.
It's almost like you're a bit like Magnum, the PI. You're actually running around there and sort of trying to figure out like the issues, a bit of investigation around the matter and things like that, versus sort of sorry, I made you laugh there, Garth, but bit of an 80s reference, but
Wasn't he a Knight Rider, Tom Selleck? Was that him?
no, it
No,
was
that was.
Magnum PI.
That's
Magnum
right.
PI. It's interesting because what it sort of shows me is that our discussions lead me to think to myself that there is actually a position that law firms and conveyancers can take leading and providing, I guess, more information to buyers and sellers about the kinds of things they need to be looking at, and taking that position, informing and educating that sort of. Do you work with law firms and conveyancers to help them actually build their services out?
Yes, I do. I run a number of training programs.
Mm-hmm.
I discuss, and find that a lot of lawyers and conveyancers don't know about these tools
Mm.
in the first place. The second point is that when you do coach them, probably 80% will probably just put it on the shelf.
Okay.
And then
Why is that?
probably the other, well, it's sort of, this is the way we've always done this, and I'm going to retire soon, and I'm just here to do the transaction, and that's all. It's not everyone, but I do find that the key to success in anything is getting uncomfortable and doing something new, and not
Yeah,
always
correct.
keep doing the same thing. That's a definition of insanity.
Correct.
Keep
That's
doing the
right.
same thing and expecting a different result.
Yeah.
And it's all about adapting and changing and taking action. And
Yeah.
but there's been some really good people I've worked with who have actually straight away done the made that part of their due diligence. And
So if you actually offered, Garth, additional services around property conveyancing that you've sort of been talking about, I mean, what impact do you think that might have on the firm's revenue? Like in percentage terms, would they get, what percentage matters could they increase in revenue or matters?
well, I think between 20 to 40%, because I tell you what builds revenue is trust,
Hmm.
and previous clients really from trust that know you, like you, want to work with you,
Will refer you as well.
and refer as well. And this is how to deepen those relationships that you have with those clients. And even law firm marketing, an excellent way is to send out an e-newsletter talking about this topic and how that you protect clients to previous clients, current clients, and some agents that you work with as well. So it sort of keeps you top of mind. You're not just a number
Yeah.
cruncher or a paper shuffle.
See, I do think, from my perspective as a consumer of legal services, a potential consumer of property services, etc., I look at this and I go, I want low risk. I want somebody who's going to inform me about everything. I want to know what's going on. I want to be an informed buyer. I want to know that the lawyer or the conveyancer's got my back. I don't want to have to sit there wondering in 10 years' time or 5 years' time. Or basically, there's these things that just crop up. And what I find that basically that there's some firms out there who do an amazing job of actually educating their clients. But I actually think that a law firm and conveyancers, part of what they can do for the community is bring the level of knowledge up, take a leadership position. It's not about marketing. I don't think it's about marketing, it's about leadership and education. I think they're the things that bring people to the fore.
Oh, definitely. Look, a lot of people understand not only just conveyancing, but the sort of work that goes into like family law or workers' compensation or all of those areas. They don't really know. And I think by educating the community, whether that be with workshops at their law firms or even at the moment recording something, not giving away everything, but what's really relevant and how you protect clients and how you look after them and what you do for them, because otherwise you just really are commoditized.
I mean, I'd sort of argue the point, Garth, that you would be the change agent in helping lawyers become educators and actually provide a deeper level of services, lawyers and conveyancers. I'd actually argue that point.
Yeah, doing that at the moment, and I'm finding that even some lawyers and conveyancers have no idea of some of this stuff that I've been training and talking about, and the tools that are there to help them to really not only look after the client, but look after prevent a claim from coming through on the practice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you enjoy your work a lot more too. You really enjoy it.
Well, you've got satisfied clients. You've got satisfied clients who refer other clients. You've got long-term relationships and that kind of thing. But I guess, look, I mean, you've got some interesting. So if people want to find more about contaminated land and some of the tools and those kind of things, is where can they go? What can they do?
Sure.
How can you help?
Well, there's a website known as lotsearch.com.au, which is very good. And InfoTrack, you can order those reports through InfoTrack as well.
Do you have checklists? Do you have checklists and letters and kinds of things that law firms could actually use in this sort of process?
Yeah, I've got a risk management book that is basically what to do before the contract, during the contract, at settlement and post-settlement. So there's a book there that covers 155 different risks, and today is just one of those risks. But if someone's sort of after a more of a modified list, they can always contact me on email at garth@conveyancers.net.au, and I can come back to them with some more information on it. Yeah.
And the interesting thing is that a lot of these risks are actually pretty generic across the world. There'll be some that's specific to jurisdiction, but a lot of these ones are generic, and they're actually a great starting point to see how to actually operate your property, your conveyancing practice. But Garth, I'd like to thank you for your time today. It's always great chatting with you, catching up. As always, I see you've lost the tie today. Actually, you did last week as well, which is a great look. I'm actually hoping you can colour the shirt a bit more next week. That's fine.
Yeah, look, I don't mind dressing up and trying to look good, but I thought I'd dress down today and be a bit more casual. And
mate, I'm looking forward to the really, really super colourful shirt next week, next session. Do you reckon you can pull one of those ones out?
One of those Gilligan Island types,
Possibly have to match as well, hey?
Yeah.
Brilliant, mate. Always a pleasure to talk, Garth. Thank you so much, and have a great one.
Thanks, David. All the best.